Okay. So. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. This is the second meeting of our Faith for Earth Youth Council, following the first, which was our launch during the Faith for Earth dialogue sessions. My name is Hannah Block, and I'm an intern with the Faith for Earth Initiative, and it is so wonderful to see familiar faces after having corresponded with you all for a couple of weeks now. So today we are brought together by our shared care for creation, and we are inspired and activated youth aware of the looming deadline for achieving Agenda 2030 and understanding our responsibility and capacity to ensure that everybody, including top decision makers, recognize the moral imperative to drive the necessary transitions for a sustainable future across all areas of human activity. And what I think is most important to note during this session is that Faith for Earth has opened this space for dialogue. However, it is the members of the Faith for Earth Youth Council that are the initiators of this process and will ultimately build the operating body that is the Youth Council. And along that line, one of my favorite moments during the dialogue session was when Shantanu, one of our incredible youth launch co-leads, was addressing the panel of the Stockholm Plus 50 dialogue session. And he said, no, youth are not the leaders of tomorrow, they are the leaders of today. And I think that is exactly what EAD and Faith for Earth are appreciating in this council, is that we are the leaders of today, and they are providing this platform for us to establish something and lead this movement. So accordingly, today we are asking those who are interested in the processes of establishment, so consolidating the structure and rules of procedure, identifying and drafting the necessary founding documents, and committing to other inaugural procedures, to express their interest in becoming the Faith for Earth Youth Council core team members. And this is a huge undertaking, of course, huge commitment. And we are very humbled by the amount of interest and support already received. And I have a presentation just to, again, summarize what we're doing here and what the aims of this session are. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so the Faith for Earth Coalition is composed of 4 pillars. The Youth Council is one of them, and the Youth Council is composed of young faith leaders and members of youth movements advocating for the protection of the earth. And it's also composed of, well, the Faith for Earth Coalition generally is also composed of the Council of Eminent Leaders, the Network of FBOs, and the Religion Science Consortium. And here's the coalition. So these were our ideas for the Youth Council, of course. And there are some that we will absolutely adhere to, like representation. But as far as membership, this is something that we need to brainstorm as a council. What criterion do we expect for membership? And this is something we'll build together. As far as expectations, we need to solicit membership, assign committees at different levels until elections are possible, and structure rules of procedure, plan of action, advocacy. However, we are still in phase 1 of this implementation plan. So we right now are focusing on first what happened during the dialogue sessions, the launch of the Youth Council. Then we want to grow the Faith Youth Network. This includes, very importantly, soliciting our own membership, assigning committees at different levels, and consolidating the structures and rules of procedure, which will be our main focus now. And then after we have completed that, for some time, we will move on to phase 2, which is designing our plan of action and identifying priority action areas. So in this session, we want to solicit a core team to consolidate the structure of the Youth Council and rules of procedure. And this includes, drafting core guiding documents, like criterion for membership, as mentioned, rules of engagement, voting procedures, and how we envision a global coordination mechanism. So stop my share. And I will hand over to Dr. Iyad for some remarks and expectations.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Very useful, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. I'm very delighted to be with you again today. Grateful for your contributions during the Faith for Earth dialogue. It was an excellent session, and we are glad that we have launched the Faith for Earth Youth Council. Now, launching it puts a lot of expectations on us as UNEP, but also on you who have participated in this and committed to taking it to the next level. As Hannah mentioned, now we are in the serious business. Now we want to say that we have a coordination team. We are consolidating the inputs for the structure, for the rules of procedure, for the membership, and so on. So now the work actually starts. I'm not sure if each and every one of you has already seen both documents, two important documents for the Faith for Earth Coalition, which describes the coalition in general and talks about specifically the four councils that we are establishing. So those two documents are very important. If you do not have access to them, then we will share them by email to the group who were invited to this session. I'm mentioning those two documents because the Youth Council will not be a standalone council. It will be part of the coalition and contributes to it, and the interlinkages between the different councils. As you know, there will be a Eminent Faith Leaders Council, there will be a Science Religion Council, there will be a Council of CEOs, and of course the Youth Council. And we envisaged the interaction between all of them. But of course, having a youth council does not mean that young scientists cannot be part of the Religion and Science Council, or cannot be CEOs of faith-based organizations. We know that some of you are actually CEOs of young-led organizations. So being part of this does not mean that you cannot contribute to the other ones. Now, what we need to do, we need to establish a coordination committee that we can call temporarily or at this stage as the Global Faith for Earth Youth Council. As I mentioned in the dialogue, and I'm repeating it, we want this council to be run on democratic principles and participatory approach. So we do not want to impose council members on the youth. We want the youth to elect their representatives at the global level, regional level, and at the national level. But we have to start somewhere. So we have to have, the first year, a preparatory council, the council that, goes out there, does the advocacy, recruit members, do, the needed communications and so on, so we can have a mass of members that can run the elections. Now, the elections, or the process of the elections, this will need to be decided by you, based on the principles that are included in the documents of the Faith for Earth Council. For example, upholding the human rights principles, upholding the principles of leaving no one behind, working with all religions from all backgrounds with no bias or no discrimination. And of course, serving the cause on or the causes for achieving the SDGs, and of course the thematic areas of the triple planetary crises, which are climate change, pollution, and nature degradation. These have been highlighted in the midterm strategy of UNEP. So this will be leading us for the next 4 years. So we need to work within this setup. However, as I mentioned, that does not mean if there are some emerging issues, we cannot respond to them. On the contrary, we expect that young people actually can propose areas of concern that we need to engage all together on. I think we need to open the nomination of the coordination committee or the temporary youth council. And before you nominate yourself, you need to know that this comes with an obligation of being committed, an obligation of working, coordinating, consolidating, bringing in input from different young people, advocacy, and so on. So being part of this is not only noble, because you will be always known as the persons who have established it and who has set it up, but of course you will always carry it out as your contribution to a long-lasting effort that brings young people together. My ambition is to have a massive campaign, a massive youth council. I'm not looking for only 15 or 20 people to be engaged and do a lot of things and go do things that only the 20 people. I want hundreds of thousands of young people to be members of this youth council. Of course, we cannot have all those hundreds of thousands at the global level. The global level should be a global coordinating mechanism, as I mentioned, coming up from the national ones. So each country can have one or more, maybe, for example, the Youth Council of Nairobi, the Youth Council of Mombasa, the Youth Council of Kenya as a national one, working with the sub-local ones. And then from Kenya, the regional or sub-regional Youth Council for East Africa, for West Africa, for Africa in general, and then the global one. So my vision is to have this massive, what the name of the campaign, the Youth for Fridays, or for the Fridays thing, was started
Fridays
by
for
a person.
Futures, right?
Yes. So that was started by one person, and now there are people from almost every corner of the world. We need to know that we are not duplicating. We are not creating yet another youth group. We have a distinctive characteristic that we bring along, which is our basing on our faith values. Again, that does not isolate people who do not believe in a faith or are not connected to a religion, because they do have a set of values that they rely on. So we want to bring everybody together in a healthy dialogue, but basing our dialogue on the ethical, moral, spiritual values that we all uphold. And our purpose is to bring people back to believe in the values and use those values to drive their behavior. So we are seeking a behavioral change by young people, and from the young people to the society, to the elders, and so on and so forth. So this is the overall vision. Now, I am all ears to listen to your ideas. We do not want to complicate things. Let's start, by putting the ideas, consolidating them, and then we can agree. I'm certain that we will have to have a number of sessions to discuss and agree and so on. But what I would like to ask you to nominate yourselves to me or to the Faith for Earth initiative. And in your nomination, I would like to see a very simple message. What would you bring to this Faith for Earth Council? So we know, or we would know how you will be serving, what are your plan of action, how you will be putting this together. And then next meeting, we will, of course, be open. We will say we have received those nominations, and according to the region, religion, distribution of thematic areas or whatever, we have come up with a group of volunteers to lead this effort, and this would be their plan of action. So please send us nominations, propose what you will be offering and what is your plan of action, and then we will take this forward. So enough from my side. The floor is open to your contributions.
Leah, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone, and nice to see you again all after this great meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. I just have a question regarding this nomination. For example, I'm coming from United Religion Initiative, and myself, I'm not really interested to take part in this. I mean, I will support and help my colleagues, but I would like to give the floor to some younger, more energetic people from our network who can contribute. Therefore, can we nominate person on behalf of organization that maybe will rotate along the process, because we have new members coming and we can share what we as organization can contribute to the network, not as one person who may sit in this kind of council. And another thing is that some kind of the deadline for nominating, because I guess it's very hard now to make it on the spot to share what are our ideas and plans, because we would like to organize meeting in our organization in order then to come back to you. So this was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Laila. This is a great question, very important. I would say that if an organization is interested in supporting the Youth Council, that would be perfect. So if you are and I believe others, for example, the Religions for Peace, they do have their own youth council and so on. That would be something that we will look very positively to, because it comes with an institutional setup and backing. And this is what we need, sustainability and continuation. So we would say that this young person is representing URI, and but then this is for the initial phase, for the first year. until we get, the constitution of the Youth Council. Maybe the young people who would form this initial phase would say, no, I mean, let's leave it for individuals, whether they represent organizations or not. Because their own organizations would be already in the other council, which is the CEOs of faith-based organizations, and URI, of course, certainly will be one of them. So I would say that would be fantastic to have a representative of an organization that is committed. So if you want to send nominations, we would appreciate if it can be sent by a representative of your management or senior management, with a commitment to support the initiative and its establishment. That is wonderful. The deadline, certainly we would want things to be finalized tomorrow, as soon as possible. But understanding the difficulties, but also the limitations and the need to move forward, I would say let's have this process finalized in 2 weeks, 2 weeks time. So in 2 weeks, we will be receiving, consolidating, and then we will call for another meeting. So if you can, all those who are interested, or through you, if you can communicate with others within 2 weeks, to send their nominations. And of course, as I mentioned, their interest and how they will be serving. I can see, let me see the list and who asked for the floor.
We have Lilian.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you everyone for organizing this meeting. So I have 2 questions. First, I should, I guess, introduce myself. My name is Lily. I go by Lily, and I serve with the Baha'i International Community as a representative to the United Nations. My colleague Safira shared this link with me. She was not able to make it to the call, so I'm here to ask a few questions. So the first one is related to the nature of the relationship between this youth council and the MGCY. I'm just wondering if there will be any overlap between the 2 groups. How would they coordinate, just so that there isn't doubling of efforts? And then my other question has to do with the age. I know that youth are categorized and defined differently by different UN agencies. And I've noticed that for this particular group, youth are being defined as, I think, between 15 and 30, if I understand correctly. But I think so different people have different opinions on what youth are and how old they can be, what is the cutoff age. But I wonder if that's set in stone, and if there is any consideration that can be made for increasing the age, just because when it's set at 30, some individuals who are really vested in the youth movement will age out and may not be able to be part of the council. And if that is the limitation, that's how UNEP is defining youth, if there is room for individuals who would like to support the council, and what that role could be if they do not fit within that age group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lily. Very good questions. As you know, of course, the major groups and stakeholders are established within the rules of procedure of the UN. And our presence as faith community or faith actors and so on is to support that mechanism. We are bringing a new constituency that has never existed before. And I keep saying it, when I started the initiative in 2017, we had 2 faith-based organizations accredited to UNEP. Now we have 56 organizations. So we are increasing the engagement of faith organizations within the major groups and stakeholders. So all of the work that we do does support the major groups and stakeholders. However, because we are an initiative, a standalone initiative, we go more and beyond what the major groups and stakeholders do. To my knowledge, major groups and stakeholders, they engage in policy dialogue, right? And they maybe conduct meetings at their regional level and so on. But what we do, we are engaging in actions and activities. We come up with thematic documents, training materials. We organize, activities on the ground. We mobilize the high-level faith community and from outside the major groups and stakeholders. So it is not only limited to the members, but we go further than that. We do partnerships, and so the set of activities that we do go beyond what the normal activities of the major groups and stakeholders, but also, again, repeating that it is in support of the policy dialogue that the major groups and stakeholders are very good at. The age, as you mentioned, the age structure differs from one institution to the other. Even within the UN, there are different approaches to young people. But for UNEP, and Shantano and other young people who are part of the major groups, please correct me if I am wrong. For UNEP, it is between 15 and 30, or actually 29, probably. So, because we do need to have a structure that is limited, so we cannot, accept one that is 1 year older or 2 years old. So we have to have a cap. But again, as I mentioned, this would be up to the council to decide. So if all the council members come and say, after discussions and analysis and after our efforts and the most active people, we need to increase it to 35, and you all unanimously agree, then we will adopt that. So after Lilian, I think David.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good day to you, everyone. This is David Munana from the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa, simply SINESA. Yeah, I thank Lily for her question concerning the potential overlap between the Faith Forward Youth Council and the UNEP NGCY, and I know both focal points for faith are in this meeting. They would stand better to advise us on the potential conflict. Because at one point, we shall be contributing to the same processes at the same time with UNEP and GCY. And we need to be very clear on how, for example, we integrate the two who are already members of the steering committee of UNEP and GCY as faith focal points. Secondly, I'm sorry, I might be ungreasing the wheels and taking us a bit back. But if we are going to have self-nominations, I would strongly recommend that we have a selection committee of guys like myself and Leah who are not interested in taking our position, but would really be happy to support, who would be involved in the selection. Because if it's self-nomination without organizational backing, they're going to have nominations in thousands. And we need to have some criteria established by the selection committee. I think this is usually standard, that when you're seeking to have people go through some electioneering or related processes, then you have an independent steering committee, which for the purposes of promoting self-organization in the Faith Forward Youth Council, I would recommend be detached from the actual Faith Forward as a program, but be self-organized from this upcoming constituency. If the office is going to hold this in the interim, then we need to get back to everyone and say that we are looking at regional representation, for example, before we open it up into other aspects, say, for example, marginalized communities, religions, and representation in that manner. Lastly, it is a very good initiative, and I would really pray, as I have said before, in our conversations, Dr. Iyad and Shantanu and like, it's important that whatever we are coming up with fits into the existing structures, especially in UNEP, because we do not want to reach a situation or an extent where it appears as though Faith for Earth initiative is midwifing the establishment of an independent constituency among the major groups and stakeholders. It would be best if we infiltrated from the different major groups and stakeholders that we work with to be integrated and work along with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you very much, and I always appreciate your interventions. Again, in terms of duplicating with the major groups and stakeholders, as you know, the members of the major groups and stakeholders must be accredited to UNEP, right? So you would find, I don't know how many are there of organizations who are accredited. I am talking about a massive campaign, not only confined or limited to accredited organizations, okay? I am talking about individual young people who can give, can contribute, have been contributing and so on, but they don't have an association. Why do we deprive them from the ability to be members of such a council that, you know, maximize their efforts and provide them with a platform to speak and to do things, you know, and show the entire world of their efforts. So we're not limiting it any members to be for accredited organizations. However, maybe, and I'm not instigating or I'm not giving hints, maybe the president or the chair of the council should be from an accredited organization, so this person makes the proper connection to the major groups and stakeholders, right? So we need to think about this setup. Now, your suggestion of the selection committee, this is wonderful. I wanted actually to ask all those who are from the major groups or the youth major groups to be part of the selection committee. However, that there might be some conflict of interest, because some of you might be interested to become, you know, members of this youth council. So, David, as you said, you are not planning to be a member, but you are will be happily able to support. So we will ask the youth major groups to nominate members to be members of the selection committee and commit not to run, at least for the first year, right? As to be part of this global council, right? So that is something that we could do, and I very much appreciate your idea. Now, existing structures, definitely we are opening it up to partnering with other structures. For example, I look forward to making partnership with Religions for Peace, Youth Council, or whatever they call it, URI, the Parliament of World Religions, and so on. There are structures that have youth constituencies, but the difference is that Religions for Peace talks about poverty, talks about women, talks about different things. They are not focused on the environment. So our focus makes it different, but certainly we need to build bridges with other existing organizations or structures. I think
Steve?
the second, Steve, okay.
Yes.
I'm happy to chime in, but I know Arun had their hand raised before me. I just want to double check. Did they still want to speak?
Arun, go ahead if you would still like to comment.
Or I actually don't believe they're on the call anymore. Okay, I'll jump in and just lifting up. I'm enjoying this conversation and thinking about how we move this forward based on what Hannah shared with us earlier. I think there's a couple of things I'd raise. First, thinking about as we nominate, I really enjoy the idea of having organizational commitment rather than individuals come forth as self-nominating because it lends itself towards giving us more resources, giving more organizational commitment, um, and ensures that as we do this work, that individual alone is not the only one within the organization driving this work, especially Iyad, as you're thinking about how we expand beyond just global engagement, but really like getting these 7 thematic areas of UNEP's program of work down to the grassroots and having youth truly engage. I think this structure really does require organizational buy-in. And so, whether it's for the drafting committee to create governance, I think that piece is probably because we're a little more loose. It's okay to look for individual nominations, but especially as we're going towards the proper election, like 1 year down the line, and we've really set up that strategic selection committee and all of that. Having organizational buy-in, I think, will be a really critical factor. As we're also speaking on this call about nominations, I'd be curious to know if you, because Hannah raised in the slides, there are 2 phases, right? Phase 1 is kind of who and whose organizations are interested in kind of conceptualizing the governance, election process, that nitty-gritty piece. And then there's like phase 2 of like, how do we strategize around, how do we roll out this program? How do we get more youth involved? And I think maybe different organizations may lend themselves to different strengths. And so would you be interested in taking nominations for both phases, or are you simply looking for nominations for phase 1 right now? Similarly, I know there's been some concerns raised around like connections and to existing structures and coordinations. But I would say, coming from my perspective, this entity is really exciting because it's housed under UNEP, right? It's a UNEP initiative through these Faith for Earth coalition itself. So I think there is that unique value add. And at the same time, connecting to different structures will be relatively easy while being able to differentiate ourselves well. Iyad, I'd love to also hear on this call, if you have time, to share with us a little bit of the progress being made on the trust fund for the Faith for Earth Coalition and how you envision the on the ground programmatic work, and then also at a global level, how that trust fund will be interacting with this youth steering committee of sorts. I'll pause there for interventions.
Thank you, Steve. Very important points. The phases, we want people to be ready to take this to the utmost delivery stage. So if phase 1 can be finalized within 1 month or 2 months, then we wouldn't say, well, we've selected you for that phase and then we have to do another selection process. So I'm saying let's select people for 1 whole year. So whether they start on phase 1 and phase 2 and probably come up with phase 3, then that is fine and all good. So let's not limit us to a phase. On the trust fund, the trust fund has been established. As you probably know, it is a lengthy process, but however, we have succeeded. The UN Secretary General established a trust fund. The trust fund was discussed by the CPR, the open-ended CPR, and it was approved, and now it is up and running. So we are ready to receive financial resources. And we have actually received very minimum financial resources. I don't think that they exceed $10,000. So they went back into the coalition and the the research that we are doing. But we're hoping that this trust fund, it is open for any individuals who are willing to contribute, organizations, philanthropists, donors, conventional, non-conventional, and so on and so forth. So the once we receive the resources, there are two ways that we will be spending the resources. So to be transparent and open, and of course, the trust fund documents are available for anybody to look at. There is a terms of reference and where and how the resources will be used. So what we're thinking of is that some of the resources will be taken to manage the program, so to support the administrative part of the initiative and the coalition. However, what we are proposing is to establish what we call a small grants facility to fund, individual. Well, I'm not sure about individuals, but small organizations or a group of organizations that are interested to do something on the ground. As you know, applying to funding is not easy, especially from donors and so on. So we want to establish this trust fund to be able to fund back, activities on the ground with young people and faith organizations. And we wanted to create an innovation hub for young people. So to encourage innovative approaches, innovative technologies, and so on by young people to serve the local communities. So these are the areas of that we expect we will spend. But of course, we are waiting that some substantive resources come our way so we can think together. And of course, the trust fund will have a steering committee from the coalition. So a representative from the Youth Council, a representative from the Eminent, and so on and so forth. So it will be not managed, because the daily management is the responsibility of UNEP, but advised by this steering committee.
Very exciting. Thanks, Iyad.
So we have a question or comment from Hudayi.
Thank you very much. Greetings of peace, everyone. I'm called Hudayi. I would like to make a few comments on the David's team's approach on the individuals' involvement. If this Faith for Earth Youth Council is going to be only chosen from accredited organizations representative, then it is going to be another exclusive council. And most of the time, organizations which are accredited or established, they have their own mission and vision, and they have to use their budget efficiently. And most of the time, this creates their negligence of the grassroots issues and grassroots involvement. So unlike Steve says, bringing more on the organizational representatives, actually individuals who are on the grassroots doing great work is again a better way to create a further audience for the Faith for Earth initiative. And I think that is what Mr. Iyad is trying to create, a program which has a greater audience, which has break the circle of exclusivity, because then again you have been saying that we do not want this to overlap with other programs, and if you do not want this program to overlap with other agendas, then it has to be more inclusive, it has to be more diverse. And what better way to diversify than asking individuals to be part of the organization? And on another note, I have seen the email of this Zoom meeting. I think it has gone over 100 people, but we are here only 33 people. So people who are here are not lay people. They are, even though some of them are individuals, some of them are the representatives of the organizations, but they are deeply concerned about the environment. And they have a basic understanding of faith, and it is power in bringing the peace to earth. So I do not think the individuals who are going to nominate themselves are lay people, or are they just for the seats, but they are deeply concerned people, because social construction of the earth is like that. So I would like to comment that, because it has been 2 or 3 comments in that bringing more from the representatives of the accredited organizations. But unfortunately, organizations that are deeply established are far from grassroots. And they are mostly in their exclusive offices. So it is important to bring the individuals. And of course, there's going to be a selective process. And over there, people are going to see if a person is qualified or not. But qualifying a person on the basis of their involvement into an accredited organization is just creating another exclusive environment. And that is not going to create a bigger audience. It is just going to be another program that is getting the funds from UN organizations. So these are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hodiai, for a very excellent and important point. And this is what I started with. I said we're creating a massive council, and being a massive council, of course, wouldn't be built on accredited organizations or accredited individuals. That wouldn't happen. As I asked David and Shamsana to tell us how many organizations are within the youth and major groups and stakeholders. I'm not sure, maybe 10, 15, I'm not sure, and maybe more. But that is important for the major groups and stakeholders' contribution to the policy dialogue at UNIA. This is adequate, this is fine, this is great. But to mobilize the behavioral change that we are talking about, we do need people who are individuals, who are committed, who have shown interest, who are willing to contribute. So certainly your point is we do not want to restrict it to accredited organizations. But I take the point that was made by many of the colleagues. I think it was started by Alphonse, that 1 or 2 representatives should be from accredited organizations to ensure the connection. And that is wonderful setup, right? So this is exactly the type of discussion that I want to, you as nominated members of the council to start talking about. So this structure. So we would say, the Global Youth Faith for Earth Council would be composed of 25 people. 2 of them are from the major groups and stakeholders. 2 of them are from other accredited organizations to make linkages, for example, with ECOSOC or with UNFCCC or whatever, to be, or 2 from each of the regions. So then we have inclusive regional distribution. 50% should be female and 50% male. So these nitty-gritty, detailed description of the structure, this is what I am looking forward to hearing from you. So certainly all the what you noted, Hodiai, sounds very good with me, and I support it 100%. So any other hands? I don't see other hands being raised.
No, I don't see any others.
So anybody has seen anything in the chat? I have been following it up, but I'm not sure if there is something that we have missed. So diversity of individuals and organizations, certainly. I'm not a chairman, Zul Ilham. Everyone, me and Jen from Center. Director. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, if such organizations that are willing to support the youth for the Faith for Earth Youth Council, of course, we welcome any organization, even if it is managed by a person who's old or a group of people who are not within the age category, but as a supportive mechanism, of course, certainly. And this is what I think Laila was talking about, yeah, from the perspective of URI nominating somebody. Of course, URI is not a youth organization, but it is supporting the engagement of young people. I think the World Evangelical Alliance has also a youth constituency, and they are very much supportive of this. And this is what will, back us up and, provide the institutional setup, which is organizations supporting this youth council. Right. Steve.
Yeah, maybe as we come to close, I think everyone on the call at least seems to be pretty in consensus in terms of the vision of the composition of the youth council. It seems direction-wise, we're pretty clear. There should be clear linkages to existing structures like MGCY and the various faith-based entities and youth networks that already exist, and finding ways to kind of build those synergies. I guess if you and Hannah can help us think through what's the next steps. I know right now it seems within the 100 some people that have been reached out to already, that you're looking for nominations to create the governance structures. And like you said earlier, it's not just to nominate for governance, but really to stay on for the whole year and think about phase 2 and phase 3 of how do you take this and really bring it into action. Are there any other takeaway points that you need from us? Any additional reflections?
No, this is beautifully summarized, Steve. Hannah and I will send out an email to the 200 people that we have reached out initially with 2 requests. The first one is to nominate members of the selection committee. Okay, so if you are not interested to be a member of the youth council, but interested to be a member of those who can, screen the applications. So this is one request. The other request is if you are interested to be nominated to be a member of the youth council for the first establishing year, please send us your nomination plus why you are applying to be a member of the council and what would you bring for the council in the first year. Okay, so that would be submitted to Hannah. Hannah will compile all of those, and then with the selection committee, we will share them, and then we establish a criteria for the selection. As we mentioned, the criteria will depend, as I mentioned, it will have to have 50% male and female, representation of regions, different regions, representation of religions, because we don't want it to be all Muslims or all Christian or all Buddhist. So we need to have representation of religions and representation of age structure. So we want people, for example, very young people, 18, 19, 20, and we need more mature young people, in their 30s and so on. So these are the criteria that we will be using in the selection process. So yeah.
Just to hop in there, we do have, I will be sending out a Google Forms, which will have these questions on it. So yeah, please hold tight and I'll send out that form. We also have, for now, we're discussing next steps. We have created this Google document just for general idea sharing in these early stages. So I've sent it to the chat, and here you can just, not as members yet because we don't have members, but just very interested youth of faith or other stakeholders, share your ideas with us on how to proceed, because again, it is up to us to initiate this process and build this together. I think David had his hand up.
David does, but before David, could you please add Lillian to the list, because she might have been invited by somebody else and not directly by us, and she's asking to be on this, and so please do. Sorry, David. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, it's all right. I'm just concerned.
We lost you, David.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, now we can.
My apologies for that. So, sorry, I might have missed this. I'm just asking, do we have a definite number of the people we are looking to have in the Faith Council? Because now people are self-nominating, or how do we determine who comes in, or do we take in everyone?
David, I didn't get the question. Sorry, the line is breaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. So I'm just asking, I might have missed out on this. Do we have a definite number of the people we want to have in the youth council, or how do we know that we have reached saturation when we are doing the selection?
Honestly, I don't know if I understood the question. How do we make sure that we have the right people?
Or no, I think so. What David was asking is, in thinking about if we have, let's say, 100 people self-nominate for this process, what's the cap? How do we know that we're saturated, and where does that take us?
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, David. I don't. Probably my line is not stable. Well, in the document that we will have to send to you, all the Faith for Earth Coalition documents, I believe we have said 25 members to be on the global council, right? And then that might be kept as it is, or increased, decreased by the initial council in the first year. All right. So 25, I think, would be a good number because we need 2 representatives from each region, right? So that is 12 at least. We need to ensure all religions are, or most of the religions are represented. We need females and males. We need age, structure to be inclusive. So I believe 25 members would be fine. But again, if in the initial year we see we need more or we need less, that would be determined by the council itself.
Thank you, that's clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Sarah, thank you. Okay, yes, we will incorporate all the comments. Now, then this should be a very sweet ending with all your contributions, and I can already see that we have very wise people with us who can take this forward, and I can, certainly sleep at night not worrying about what you will be doing with this, but I am certain that you will take it forward. So we will, in a day or two, send the email that we promised with the 2 requests. And then, as we mentioned, we shall give 2 weeks for the nominations. In 2 weeks, we will call the selection committee to convene, establish criteria, have a consultative, open selection process, and then we come back with the names of the first Faith for Earth Council, which I hope that we will all celebrate, advocate, advertise, and make known to the global community. And then the start will work. And just one word to end with, this is not going to be a privilege, it is going to be a responsibility, right? So being a member of this council means you have an obligation and you have a responsibility towards all the young people who have faith in this Faith for Earth Council. Unless there's nothing or nobody who wants to say anything, we adjourn and looking forward to meeting you very soon. Thank you. All the best. Have a great day and weekend.
Thank
Much
you
love,
all.
guys.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.